Chapter 10, Breakfast Truce. He crept downstairs. The house was still asleep. He decided to cook breakfast for himself and his cowboy and his Indian. He was quite a good cook, but he mostly made sweet stuff before. However, any fool, he felt, I'm sure, could fry an egg. The steaks were out of the question. But the beans, those were no problem. Omri put butter in the frying pan on the stove. The fat began to smoke. Omri broke an egg into it, or tried to, but the shell, instead of coming cleanly apart, crumbled somehow in his hand and landed in the hot fat mixed up with the egg. Guess not as easy as he thought. Leaving that mess to cook, the shell and all, he got a tin of beans out of the cupboard and he opened it without trouble. Then he got a saucepan and began pouring the beans in it. Some of them got onto the egg pan somehow and began to explode. The egg was beginning to curl up in the pan. It was smoking. Alarmed, he turned off the heat. The center of the egg still wasn't cooked, and the beans in the pan were still stone cold. But the smell in the kitchen was beginning to worry him. He didn't want his mother coming down, so he tipped the whole lot into a bowl, hacked a lopsided slice of the loaf of bread off, and tiptoed up the stairs again. Little Bear was standing outside the longhouse with his hands on his hips, waiting for him. "You bring food?" he asked in his usual bossy way. "Yes." "First, Little Bear want ride." "First, you must eat while it's hot." "I've gone to a lot of trouble to cook for you," Omri said, sounding like his mother. Little Bear didn't know how to take this. He burst into laughter and pointed at him scornfully. "Omri cook? Omri woman," he teased. But Omri wasn't bothered. "All the best cooks are men," he retorted. "Come on, you're going to eat with Boone." Little Bear's laughter died instantly. "Who Boone?" "You know, the cowboy." The Indian's hand came to his hips, and one of them went for his knife. "Oh, knock it off, Little Bear. Have a truce for breakfast. Otherwise, you won't get any." Leaving him for that to chew on, Omri crossed the crate in which Boone was grooming his white horse with a wisp of cloth he'd found clinging to the splinter. He'd taken out the little saddle, but the bridle was still on. "Boone, I've brought you something to eat," said Omri. "Ah, yeah, I thought I smelt something good," said Boone. "Let's get to it." Omri put his hand down. "Climb on." "Aw, shucks, where am I going? Why can't I just eat my box where it's safe?" whined Boone, but he climbed on, bore to Omri's palm, and grumpily sat with his back against his middle finger. "You're going to eat with the Indian," said Omri. Boone leapt up so fast he nearly fell off. He had to grab onto the thumb to steady himself. "Heck no, I ain't," he yelled. "You just put me down, son. You hear me? I ain't sharing my victuals with no lousy, scalping, snaffling Injun, and that's my last word." And it happened to be his last word before he sat down right in front of him, 6 inches from the enemy on the seed tray. They both bent their legs into crouches, as if uncertain whether they should leap at each other's throats or turn to flee. Omri hurriedly put the spoon of egg and beans and the held between them. "Smell that," he ordered them. "Now, you eat together, or you don't get any at all. So you can make up your minds now. You can start fighting afterwards if you must." So he took a bit of clean paper, laid it as a tablecloth underneath the spoon. Then he broke off some crumbs of the bread crust and shoved it into each of their little hands. Still with their eyes fixed on each other's faces, the Indian and cowboy sidled up to the big steaming bowl of food. From opposite sides, Little Bear was first to shoot his arm up and dip the bread into the egg. Then all of a sudden, the movement startled Boone so much that he let out a yell and tried to run. But Omri put his hand back all the way. "Don't be silly, Boone," he said firmly. "I ain't being silly. Them Injuns ornery, savage, them dirty. I ain't eating from that same bowl as no." "Boone," said Omri quietly, "Little Bear is no dirtier than you are. You should see your own face." "Is that my fault? What kind of hallucination are you? Anyways, telling me I'm dirty when you don't even bring me washing water." That was the fair complaint, but Omri wasn't going to lose the argument on the side issue. "You can have some breakfast, but if you don't agree to eat with the Indian, I'm going to tell him your nickname, The cowboys felt, "Oh, now that ain't fair. What plumb no fair anyway," he muttered, but the hunger was getting the best of him. So, grumbling and swearing under his breath, he turned his back and marched to the side of the spoon. By this time, Little Bear was seated cross-legged with a piece of paper and a hunk of beans in one hand and a mess of egg in the other, and he was eating heartily. Seeing this, Boone lost no time in tucking some in, eyeing the Indian, who ignored him. "Where's my coffee?" he complained after he'd eaten a few bites. "I ain't gonna start my day till I have my jug of coffee." Omri had completely forgotten about the coffee, but he was beginning to be pretty fed up with being bossed around by these two ungrateful little men. So he settled down to eat his remains of his food and simply said, "Well, you'll have to start today without one." Little Bear finished his breakfast, stood up. "Now we fight," he announced, and he reached for a knife. Omri expected Boone to leap up and run, but he didn't. He just sat there munching his bread and beans. "I ain't finished yet," he said. "Ain't gonna fight till I'm plumb full of vittles. And you can just sit down and wait, Redskin." Omri laughed. "Good for you, Boone. Take it easy, Little Bear. Don't forget your promise." Little Bear scowled, but he sat down again. Boone ate and ate. It was hard not to suspect after a while that he was taking so slow bites as possible to put off the moment where he would have to fight. At the very last, very reluctantly, he scraped the last bit of egg from the spoon, wiped his hands on the side of his trousers, stood up. Little Bear was on his feet instantly, and Omri stood ready to part them. "Look here, Injun," said Boone. "If we're gonna fight fair. Probably ain't a word fair in your language, but I'm here to tell you, with me it's fight fair or don't fight at all. Little Bear fight fair, kill fair, scalp fair. You ain't gonna scalp nobody less'n you take it off with your teeth." For answer, Little Bear raised his knife, which flashed in the morning light. Omri had his hands on his knees and waited. "Yeah, I see it, but you ain't gonna have it much longer. And you know why, ain't ya? Because I ain't got one. All I got is me gun, and my gun's plumb run out of bullets. What I got is me fists. So, and one other thing. I got my hallucination up here." And he waved his hand at Omri without taking his eyes off Little Bear. "And you know what? He don't want to see my pretty red scalp hanging from no redskin's belt. So if I fight, it's going to be fist to fist, face to face, man to man, Injun. Do you hear me? No weapons. Just us two. Let's see if a white man can kick a little red man in a fair fight. Less'n maybe, just maybe, you ain't red at tall, but yeller." And Boone stepped up around the bowl of the spoon, threw his empty gun to the ground, and put up his fists and danced like a boxer. Little Bear was nonplussed. He lowered his knife and stared at Boone. Whether Little Bear had completely understood the cowboy's strange speech was very doubtful, but he could not mistake the gesture of him throwing his gun away. As Boone began to dance around him, fists up, making little mock jabs towards his face, Little Bear was getting madder and madder, and then all of a sudden he took a swipe at him with his knife, and Boone jumped back. "Oh, you naughty Injun! I see I'll have to set my hallucination on you." But Omri didn't have to do anything. Little Bear had got the message. Throwing down the knife and the furry, he hurled himself onto Boone. That followed with not a fist fight or a wrestling match or anything so well organized. It was more just an all-in-all, no-holds-barred, two-man war. They rolled on the ground, pummeling, kicking, biting, headbutting. At one point, he saw Boone try to bite him again. Maybe he succeeded because Little Bear suddenly let go of him and Boone rolled away, swift as a barrel, down a slope onto his legs, and then sprung up like a bow-legged panther onto the Injun again, feet first. Little Bear let out a noise, "Oof!" and he caught Boone by both ankles and heaved him up. Little Bear picked up a clod of compost and flung it right at him, catching him right in the face. Then Little Bear got up and ran at him, holding both fists together, swinging them like he swung a battle axe. They caught the cowboy and heaved a whack against his ear, which sent him flying to one side. But as he flew up, he caught Little Bear with a blow to the chest with one of his boots, and that left them both on the ground. The next moment, each of them found themselves pinned by a giant finger. "All right, boys, that's enough," said Omri. It's in his father's best, firm end of the fight voice. "Now, it's a draw. Now you both get cleaned up for school."